I hope you had a restful evening. I hope you have a restful evening. We are excited to welcome you back to second day of our event. My name is Shola, and I will be once again be your MC today. Before we dive into another day of insightful presentations and discussions, let's take a moment to recap the highlights from yesterday's sessions. We had the privilege to hearing our distinguished guest speakers, Dr. Loh, and engaging in some thought-provoking discussions. Today, we have another lineup of exceptional speakers and topic prepared for you. The topic for our guest lecture today is food formulation and manufacturing. Before we start our agenda, let's pray with our belief. Pray begin. Pray could be done. First, a quick reminder, if you have any questions during today's session, please feel free to raise your hand and ask. Your active participation is highly encouraged and valued. Thank you once again for being a part of this event, and let's make today's event more memorable. Without further ado, let's commence another day brimming with knowledge sharing, led by Dr. Loh. Now, I invite Dr. Loh to begin the presentation.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Okay. Wow. Okay. I still can see some seats are in empty here. Are they coming? For lectures. Okay. All right. Okay. Um. Well. So I can still see your face here. Means that my last lecture is not so boring now. Okay. Or you are being forced to come here. No. Okay. So I hope that you learned something yesterday. So today we're going to move forward, okay, to talk about the feed formulation and also manufacturing. Okay. So how does the feed being produced is very important. Okay. Because if you know all the knowledge but without knowing the knowledge to process, okay, or to make the feeds, so basically you are doing nothing. Yeah. You knowing the concept, ideas, right? But you can't make the feed, and your feed cannot meet the requirement of your culture species, then you are failed, right? So today we are going to talk about what are the basics concepts lying behind the feed manufacturing processes. All right? Okay. I hope that you guys will, you know, bangun and wake up, refresh your mind, because you will be going to have a very long slide today, about 60 something slides. I'm going to spend more than 100 minutes with you today. I hope that you can able to capture the maximum that I'm going to deliver for today, because I'm trying to summarize my one semester Kuliah, okay, in these 4 days. So it's going to be very intensive, yeah? So get ready for it, okay? All right. So feed types and also ingredients. Very important, what is the type of the feed that you want to make, and also what are the ingredients you are intended to put in, okay? So like you are making your cake, right? So making your maybe donuts or whatever, okay, bakery, you need to know what are the ingredients you used, what are the preference ingredient your customer like, right? And also you need to know the cost of the ingredient, because you don't want to sell a donuts with 100,000 per piece of the for piece of donuts that you're selling in your maybe your bakery shop, okay? Because that's not competitive, okay, in terms of price. 100,000 per piece of donuts, and well, other people maybe selling 50,000, okay? So you don't want to have that kind of incompetitive pricing, right? Okay, so perfect feed mixture for producing pellets or some other type of feed pellets must be always modified to account for nutritional needs of the animal, right? So means that you cannot use other ingredients or other formulation to feed other different kind of feed, fish or shrimp. Okay, shrimp have its own requirement. Fish has its own requirement, right? So feed production goal must be always talk about fast. Okay, if your ingredients is something that very hard to find, very difficult to find, very hard to source it. Okay, and you need to really getting a lot of supplier in order for you to access for the ingredient. Okay, that about time. Okay, so time consumption is too long in order for you to get the ingredients is also not good, right? So and also the main goal for your feed is to make efficient or maximize the gain weight of your culture species, okay? And also successful maturation, okay? You want to make your fish grow faster, bigger, better, right? To reach adulthood in a shorter time, okay? Shorten your culture cycle. So that's very important, okay? And then some of the special feed is mainly function for reproduction, okay? So means that when you're doing your bird stock management, you're trying to produce very good generation, new fry, good quality fry, then your feed must be able to give you full nutrients that you need in order for the parent fish to produce a good quality of fry, isn't it? Okay, so that's very important. So diet must be economical to produce, to ship, to transport, to store, and to deliver to the fish farm. And the feed quality have to remain intact in the water. So means that it's not going to be easily disintegrated inside the water. Okay, must be remain intact. Macam satu, the whole feed. Okay, pulat-pulat macam ni. Okay, alright. Another one is to minimize the water pollution caused by disintegrating of the parent. Okay, so the same meaning with the feed intake. Okay, so fish must be always remain in the same shape, even though like half an hour dalam air itu. Okay, right? Okay. So factors that influencing fish feed formulation and manufacturer. So feed production method and also ingredient being used, right, in the production. So the changes of the availability and quality of ingredients used in the feed. Okay, so what kind of ingredients that you need to use, right? That also influence the quality of your feed. If you're trying to develop new ingredient, okay, like for example, you're using single cell protein, you're using a novel ingredients to make up your feed, you are trying to use insect meal, for example, which we're going to discuss for tomorrow class, right? So these are the new formulation. Okay, when it's coming into new formulations, you need to optimize it. Okay, you need to optimize the process of your manufacturing. Okay, setiap kali kamu kalau ada lamuan yang baru, kaedah untuk membuat pellet itu adalah tidak sama. So setiap kali new ingredient coming in, the way of making it will be slightly different. Okay, right? So the cultivation of new species, yeah. So if you have new formulation, new species, right? The process of manufacturing of your feed must be different, okay, right? And also, lastly, advancement of our knowledge. So setiap kali dalam industry, there's a new, development of manufacturing protocol, right? New machine coming in, okay? New way of making your pellets, okay? We always adapt, okay, with the new changes, okay? So this is the things that aquafeed industry always face, okay? So feed types, we have wet feed, we have dry feed, we have semi-moist feed, okay, right? So wet feed is always all the ingredients coming from the raw material, for example, frozen fish, oilseed meal, right? Beef, liver, animal byproducts, fish meal, for example, all these are wet feed, okay? Right? Makanan basah. Okay? This process very labor intensive, okay? Because you need to obtain maybe from the fish harbor, right? From animal slaughterhouse, any animal production units, okay? So first, transportation cost. Macam mana nak bawa balik animal byproducts. So nak bersihkan dia lagi, okay? Alright. So the cost of labor is very, very high, okay? Even though the cost of the feed may be low, but you don't, ignore the cost of labor. Yeah, the cost of labor, time consumption, okay? And also the quality of wet feed, because most of the time, if you use animal byproducts, you wouldn't adding any other ingredient because you're trying to save the cost, right? That's why you're using wet feed, using animal byproducts. You don't care about that mineral, vitamin sometime. Yeah, okay. So this feed always contain about 60% of water, right? Even though you say that, oh yeah, it's cheap, yeah, right? Trash fish, ikan baja, cheap. Okay, in Malaysia, it's selling about 60 cents per kilogram. In Indonesia, I don't know what is the price here, but I assume that it's almost similar, quite low. Yeah. Okay. Right. So if you compare with the feed, commercial feed, okay, in packaging, okay, 1 kilogram of feed, commercial feed, is costing 6 ringgit to 7 ringgit per kilogram in Malaysia. And the trash fish only 60 cents per kg, per kilogram. Okay, so there's a huge difference, 10 times. Okay, but in terms of moisture, right? So if you compare 1 kilogram of wet feed, trash fish, and also 1 kilogram of your commercial dry pellet, okay, basically the dry matter in the wet feed is much more lower than the dry matter in your commercial pellet, okay, because it contains 60% water, okay, right? And the bad thing is disease transmission. It will easily lead to disease transmission because according to many studies, right, parasite transmission, disease transmission is come from the raw ingredients coming from the sea, okay, right? Okay. So trash is, okay, one of the example of many of these wet feed, okay, right? So another one is wet dry feed mixture. So this diet were blend of the slaughterhouse byproduct and commercial available feed ingredient. Okay, so wet coupled with dry pellet. Okay, so the dry mixtures contain fish meal, starch, vitamin, mineral premix. Okay, so normally this is being done on site. Okay, small scale farmer, right? So some of the small scale farmer, they like to basically getting the raw ingredients because cheap, and also they're mixing up with the commercial available premix, vitamins, minerals, okay, trying to increase some of the intended mineral or vitamin requirement, okay? But this also comes with a problem because the wet, okay, always remember the wet prepared raw ingredients are easy to be infected with a lot of disease, a lot of bacteria, right? That also can cause disease transmission, okay, right? If you are very expert in microbiology, you are very good in hygiene, maybe you can reduce a little bit on the disease transmission. But maybe you have the knowledge, your worker or your staff doesn't have it. Okay, that's come with the problem. Okay, disease transmission also occur in the wet prepared feed. Okay, so semi-moist or dry pellet feeds. Okay, even though the feed that come from the manufacturer also contains some 0% of moisture. Okay, that's for certain. Okay, because if there's no moisture, right? So basically your feed will be crumble and it's dry and it cannot form a pellet shape. So anyhow, even though it's a dry pellet, it also contains certain level of your moisture. Okay, but it's more hygiene. Okay, because you don't keep a lot of moisture, you keep certain percentage of moisture in your dry feed. Okay, right? There's more hygiene. All right, good for storage and have low disease transmission. So when you go to Sangga Laut, okay, sea cages, Next time, if you graduated and you work as a salesperson, you go to see cages, you know, your farmer asks you, why I need to buy your commercial pellet, right? Since I have better option where I can get the ikan baja from the laut, right? I can use it as a very cheap source. Why I need to buy it from you, right? Believe me, I encountered the same question also during my time when I was working as a territory manager at Cargill, right? My customer asked me, why I want to buy from you? Mu mahal sangat lah. Ya, saya dapat ikan baja baru berapa sen aja. Saya beli daripada kamu, wah 10 kali ganda. Wah, adakah pellet ni lepas makan dia boleh jadi Superman ke? Tak boleh lah kan, alright? But hygiene, quality, insurance, and also low disease transmission is the main point. Okay, your pellet doesn't cause disease problem to you, right? Imagine if you're using wet feed, right? The next day banyak ikan mati, walaupun dia, you know, cheap, but is it worth to do it, right? No, okay, right? So I'm actually selling some USB, yeah, for you. You need unique selling point for you, you know, if next time you want to become a salesperson, okay? All right, so feed type, we have already discussed it. So how about the formulation? So if you are asking me, so what kind of formulation that we can use? Okay, as I mentioned yesterday, there's no standard template for formulation for all the fish that we have. Okay, all the culture fish, right? So tilapia, gurami, dia ada formulation dia sendiri. Okay, salmon ada formulation dia sendiri. Okay, udang garam ada formulation dia sendiri. Okay, so it has to be depending on how many research has been carried out or conducted on the particular species, right? But of course, so somebody there don't mind to share it, you can actually go to look at the database like FAO, right? FAO always sharing open access formulation for common species like tilapia, catfish, right? Sometimes you can also see others species, okay, on the internet, okay, on their internet database. So these are the general open access, okay, that you can actually access to see what are the ingredients that you need to put in, okay. Right, for example, fish meal, the content of fish meal during the fry stage, you can see very high, right, 50%, very top there, fish meal, right? Then when you're going to fingerling and grow out, your percentage of your fish meal is starting to decrease. Dia akan turun. Okay? Kenapa? Fish meal sangat mahal, right? It's very expensive. So they wanted to reduce the usage of fish meal, right? Dia ganti dengan apa? Ganti dengan soybean meal. Tengok tak? Soybean meal dia increasing. Okay? Right? And during the grow out, they will put more in what? Okay, corn bulak. Okay, in the grow out, as you can see that, yeah, from the last row over there. Okay, corn meal bulak yang akan masuk. Sebab soybean meal juga mahal. Okay, juga sangat mahal, right? So in the grow out phase, they will use lesser fish meal, moderate level of soybean meal, higher level of corn meal. Okay, right? So that's helping you to make your feed become more economy. Okay, right? So that's how they play around with the formulation. So what are the advantages of the dry pellet? Okay, today we're going to talk about the process of making pellet, dry pellet. We're not going to talk about macam mana nak buat ikan baja ke semua ni, tak ada. Okay, so dry feed pellet. Okay, dry pellet, aka sinking pellet or floating pellet. Okay, all right. So advantages of dry pellet do not require frozen storage. Room temperature storage is sufficient. Okay, sufficient for you to store for more than 3 months. Okay, right? Can be used in inexpensive platform type demand feeder, where most of the wet feed cannot do. Okay, kalau ada auto feeder, okay, the dry feed can be easily dispensed to the whole pond. But ikan macam-macam lah, dia akan sticky, okay? Alright? So it's less expensive than moist pellet, especially when the cost of moist pellet is expressed in a dry weight basis. Okay? Kalau it's like what I mentioned just now, okay? If you're comparing, okay, in the 1 kilogram of dry matter and also the wet feed dry matter, okay? After you have already extract all the water from the wet feed, okay? Maybe dia 1 kilogram of the wet feed dia mungkin tinggal 100-200 gram saja, okay? Right? As a dry matter, okay? So based on this concept, if you want to reach up to 1 kilogram of dry pellet compared to commercial pellet, then you need to increase 10 kali ganda wet feed too. Okay? So 60 sen talap dengan 10, 6 ringgit juga. Okay? Because you want to have the dry matter, 1 kilo dry matter from the out of the wet feed. Okay? Right? So it's very expensive if you look at the actual calculation. Okay? Maybe your customer next time in the future, right? A customer asks you, why I want to use it? Okay? You can do a simple math for them. Okay? Wet feed, kalau ambil semua air keluar, baru tinggal 100 gram saja. Okay? My commercial feed pellet 1 kilogram memang 1 kilogram. Okay? So if let's say you want to make up to 1 kilogram of the dry matter from your wet feed, you kena talap 10 kali. Cost pun kena talap 10 kali. Okay? Alright? So this is a simple maths. Okay? So when you talk to the farmer, you can easily convince them. Okay? But what are the advantages of dry matter? Okay? Dry pellet. So some species, alright? They are, for example, young salmon start feeding less readily on dry matter than the most feed, okay? Particularly on the cold weather, okay? So sometimes you need to take balance between dry feed and also moist feed, okay? Right? Not saying that dry feed always the best, but when there is a young fish larvae, okay? During the larvae stage, you must need to also include some wet matter for them, okay? So semi-moist feed perhaps, okay? All right? So some of the dry pellet, okay? They are complex pellet and do not float on the in the water, okay? That's because the complex making of pellet do not have air pocket in the pellets, okay? Unlike extruded pellet. So dry pellet, sometimes you have sinking pellet, as I mentioned last time, right? Yeah, yesterday. Then you have semi-sinking pellet. Then you have floating pellet. Okay, right? So if the sinking pellet, right, basically has no ability to afloat in the water, and you cannot observe or monitor the health status of your fish, and you do not know what is the feeding preference of your fish. Okay? Right. So there is a limit to the amount of fat that can be included in the feed to be pellets. Okay? Normal in feed manufacturing, okay, they will add in oil. Okay? For example, vegetable oil, for example, animal oil. Okay? So, but only very limited oil can be included during manufacturing. Okay? Tak boleh banyak sangat. Sebab kalau you making the feed with using very large amount of oil, basically the extruder, okay, the machine cannot process it. Terlalu cair, too much of lubricants, right? So if you want to increase percentage of oil in your feed, how do you do it? Okay, during the processing time, you include very less amount of lipid, tapi lepas dia jadi pellet, you coat it with other percentage of your oil, okay? Coating, okay? Also called top dressing, okay? The process also called top dressing, okay? That's happened after the pellet has already formed, okay? So extruded pellet, aka floating pellet. Okay, so these pellets are formed by extrusion of moist mixture, 20-24%, followed by drying, reduce the moisture content to 10 or less. Okay, during very moist level, right? In the machine itself, it will expand. Okay, after very high temperature cooking stage, water will become vapor. Okay, water will become vapor. Then the pellet coming out from the extruder will become drying, more dry. Okay, so it's used by catfish, salmon, trout, and other fish in the sea cages. Okay, why you need to use floating pellet? Because you only will be able to monitor the fish eating when that's on the floating surface, right? But some of the fish, dia memang nakal lah, dia tak suka floating pellet, like grouper, okay, sea bass, okay, kakap, dia tak suka sangat. Sebab dia bila dia nampak ada orang di sekitar sana, dia tak mau datang untuk makan. Okay, so dia punya behavior memang macam ni. So grouper, sea bass, we prefer to use slow sinking pellet. Okay, alright. Okay, for other fish, no problem. Okay, so the extrusion process expands starch in the feed mixture, which allow the pellet to lower the pellet density. Okay, right. Extruded pellet can be made to float, sink slowly or sink rapidly. Okay, ada siapa yang masih ingat lagi kalau kita nak buat floating pellet, berapa persen of your flour need to be there? Siapa masih ingat lagi? Floating pellet, berapa persen flour? Lecture tak ada dalam kuliah hari ini ya. Kalau tidak, saya akan minta dia bagi 5 markah. Okay? Floating pellet, how many percentage of flour that you need to include? Masih ingat lagi tak? Semalam saja. Sorry? I dengar ada answer. 5%. 5% flour untuk floating. %20. Yes. So if you want to make sinking pellet, berapa persen? MC, boleh jawab. Sinking pellet. Sinking pellet less than 10%. Okay? Okay, remember, yeah, this is not many people will tell you. Not many people will tell you. Yeah? Right? So this one, if you learn, then it's good by yourself. Okay? So sinking pellet, 10% or lower. Floating pellet, 20 and above. Semi-sinking, 10 to 20. Normally 15. Okay? Slow sinking. All right? So, micro diet. Have you heard about micro diet? Makanan yang sangat halus. Siapa yang pernah kerja dalam hatchery? Tak pernah. Haven't gone for any internship yet. Tak pernah ada kerja lapangan lagi. No. Wow, memang sangat fresh sini. Okay, if you gone to any of fish hatchery or shrimp hatchery, you will be able to see micro diet. Sangat halus. This is the starting artificial diet for most of the shrimp or fish larvae. Okay, sangat halus, right? So the technology to make this micro diet is very sophisticated, very complex. Okay, and that's why they're selling in very expensive cost. Satu packing yang sangat kecil, 300 gram mungkin, it can sell up to 100 ringgit. So equivalent to how many? 100 times 3,000 something. Okay, 3,005 rupiah. So that's very expensive. Okay, 300 gram only, very small amount. Okay, because the technology that used to produce micro diet is very expensive. Okay, right. So anybody have used this before in your aquarium? I think it's pretty common for aquarium fish. The flax type of diet. Pernah tak? Siapa yang ada ikan dalam rumah? Hobi? Tak ada. Putar aquaculture. Ada. Pernah tengok ini ya? Pernah kan? So this is a very common flax that you use in your ornamental fish. Yeah. All right. Okay. So it's always being used. Okay, for very cheap reason because they're not selling very high price and you know it's fulfilling a lot of nutrition requirement for your ornamental fish. Okay. So now, what are the critical considerations that you need to take into account when you are making your feed? Okay, ingredient price and availability. Okay, now you want to make very cheap feed and also not hard to find where the source of your ingredients. Okay, you need to make your diet acceptability is good for your fish, for your target species, and also for the people who paying for it. Okay, your farmer. Okay, you kena jaga you punya farmer, punya perasaan juga. Kalau bila dia beli pellet itu, wah, sangat powdery ya, it's not smelling good. Even though I'm buying for my pets to eat, I don't want to buy it. Okay, because it's very important. Jaga customer punya perception. Not only the fish, but the customer, okay, the people who buying it, okay. Now, typo ya, palatability of the formulation, okay. Palatability maksudnya adakah formulation ini sedap dimakan untuk ikan, bukan manusia tapi ikan, okay, or udang. So you can easily see, okay, during feeding practices, okay. Kalau dia habiskan cepat, oh ya, inilah dia, okay. Tapi ada juga yang tidak makan dengan secepat yang kamu harapkan. So I have been trying several brand of commercial diet. Yeah, some of the commercial brand really they don't like. Yeah, the fish doesn't like it at all. Okay, they will take years to finish the whole pellet. Okay, right? Because the palatability is not good. Okay, the pellet storage and also handling requirement. Okay, right? So feed is also come from a lot of different ingredients. Okay, organic ingredient. Okay, so some feed manufacturers that do not include sufficient amount of anti-fungal agent. So means that it's also very easy to grow fungus. Okay, contaminated by fungus, and fungus very toxic. Okay, there's also a special lecture for the fungus toxic in my class, okay, for fish formulation. Okay, so there's a lot of neurotoxin, yeah, and of course there's a alpha toxin caused by fungus contamination in feed ingredients. Okay, so bukan banyak, cuma sikit saja boleh cause cancer to grow in your body. Alpha toxin is very dangerous. If you see any fungus growing in your corn, doesn't mean that sikit saja lah saya chop habis saya buang makan yang the rest of the fruit. No, same thing happened to strawberry. If you see there is a fungus on the surface of strawberry, better you throw the entire box. Okay, don't eat it, don't chop it down and eat it, because once you've already seen the fungus growing, the hypha already, the root system of fungus already growing in your entire fruit. Okay, that's the cause of alpha toxin. Okay, and can cause your liver damage, right? Okay, you don't use it. Okay, and also the level of anti-nutritional factors. If you use soybean, if you use cottonseed meal, all these ingredients have anti-nutritional factors. Okay, still remember, yeah, anti-nutritional factors that we mentioned yesterday, yeah. Okay, right. So feed ingredients, animal and fish feed ingredients are mostly byproduct of food processing. Okay, so how they process it? for fish meal, right? Okay, basically they are captured from the sea. For those low value fish, they will just screen out. Okay, the screen out fish will be your fish meal. All right, and also during the slaughterhouse facility, every internal organ have removed, right? The fresh selling to market, those internal organs using for what? For animal feeding. That's where your fish meal coming from. Okay, right? So no, not all feed ingredients are byproduct. Some of the raw material, for example, anchovy meal, menhaden meal, and whole grain, basically are purposely being captured or farmed for animal production industry. Okay, okay. Some of this farm grain is actually for animal production. Okay, you can see a lot of soybean in United States, right? So not all for human consumption. Some of these low quality ingredients is for animal production. Okay, anyone want to take a rest? Here, I can see that like some sleepy faces already. Tak banyak tanya soalan kan? Saya tanya banyak sikit soalan ya, supaya boleh wake up. Okay, or I just point any one of you to answer question. Yeah. Okay. If you need break, let me know because it's going to be very long day today. Okay, I'm going to explain it slowly so that everybody, you know, you can get as much as possible. Yeah, that's the reason why I'm here, right? Okay. So protein, you have different grade of protein: good quality protein, moderate quality protein, and low quality protein. Okay, good quality proteins, normally you have more than 50% of protein content in your raw ingredients. Okay, more than 50%. Okay, sometimes you have 72%, sometimes you have 80%. Okay, so all these ingredients coming from fish meal, blood meal, feather meal, okay, tankage, meat, bone meal, yeast product, and so on and so forth. Okay, normally protein content dia adalah sangat tinggi dan harga dia juga sangat tinggi. Okay, then you have moderate percentage of protein come from oilseed, crab meal, milk product. Ada orang guna milk product untuk ikan ke? Ada yang expired. Okay, yang sudah sampai expired date. Okay, expired products. Okay, milk products. They use it for animal production industry. Okay, and also low grade protein normally coming from plant origin. Okay, so like the waste coming from the brewing industry, from distilling industry, wheat meal and corn meal, so on and so forth. Okay, they are the low quality of protein. Okay, it's relatively cheap as well. Okay, right. So meat meal and bone meal, right? Normally come from dry mammalian tissue like the hair, hooves, horn, stomach content of farm animal. Okay, when you already slaughtered your cattle, so all these internal organs come in. Okay, so the contents very high percentage of protein. Okay, also moderate level of fat. Okay, also calcium. Okay, so the meat meal also contain calcium. You don't need to worry about where your calcium come from. If you use bone meal, that's the source of calcium as well. Okay, right? Thanks God, I can see some feedback. All right, so blood meal, another blood meal. So blood meal is very good in the source of protein and the source of lysine. Okay, have you heard about lysine? Have you heard about lysine? Yes or no? What is lysine? Don't know. I remember I mentioned it in my yesterday Kuliah. There's a record over there, Facebook Live. You can go YouTube. You can find back. Okay, the same things that I mentioned. Yeah, lysine is amino acid, very important amino acid. Okay, what's the function of lysine? Banyak function dia. Lysine is very important in increasing the palatability of your feed. Okay, kalau ada banyak lysine, feed kamu adalah lebih senang diterima oleh ikan. Dia suka makan. Okay, lysine also important in building your muscle. Also important in building or generating the hormone. Okay, so with the lysine inclusion, you can actually lower down your FCR. Okay, and also enhance of your growth rates. Okay, that's why in some feed formulation table, okay, you can see lysine, methionine, they're added separately. Okay, they are added separately. Okay, all right. Okay, so now you know where's lysine come from the blood meal. Okay, right. So the feather meal is come from poultry feathers, which has been hydrolyzed, okay, using carbon hydroxide, okay, right? Sorry, calcium hydroxide and dry, okay. So it has protein content of about 80 to 85%, very high level, but in terms of digestibility, it's very low. So why don't we use feather meal? Yeah, in most of the feed formulation, why don't we use it? Because the digestibility of the protein is very low. Even though it's cheap, even though it's high content, but digestibility very low. That's why it's not recommended. Okay, right. Then you have byproducts: meal, gija, intestine, internal organ, right? So all these contain very high protein level as well, 58%, and high fat. Okay, right? Meal byproducts. So basically made from dry wheat product, casein, and dry skim milk. Okay, right? So the dry skim milk is sometimes used for as a starter diet. Okay, if you are dealing with larva, okay, fish larva or shrimp larva, right? So the starter artificial diet sometimes doesn't really have to come from the commercial diet. It can be prepared by, can be prepared by your staff on site. Okay, so you can how to prepare for the starting diet for fish larvae. If you are aquarium hobbyist, you like to keep your fish, you like to breed your fish in your house, right? And you have small baby fish. So how do you treat them? Okay, you can actually use cooked egg, the boiled egg, right? Remove the, you can just eat the egg without the yolk, right? So you now take the yolk, right? And then you use your finger to just make it smaller. Then you can start to feed your fish. Yeah, egg yolk, because it contains very high level of choline, vitamin B, right? It contains very high percentage of protein. Okay, so very good in helping your fish to grow faster. Okay, right? So egg yolk, right? And also the dry skim milk in powder form. Okay, so basically you can use it. Okay, right? Protein content is always high. Okay, 34% or above. Okay, gelatin. Okay, gelatin is a partial hydrolysis of collagen from the animal skin. Yeah, now tendon, skin, right? To sendi semua boleh pakai. Yeah, so it's a source of gelatin. Okay, gelatin also function as a binding agent. Okay, to bind your ingredient and make it into a pellet form. Okay, so in your feed formulation, not only the raw ingredient is important, but also the binder. Okay, binder very important because without binder, your ingredient cannot form solid. Okay, as a pellet form. Okay, so the binder can become from gelatin, can become from alginate, seaweed, can become from flour. Okay, the cheapest source of the binder is flour. Kenapa you nak gunakan tepung gandum untuk buat cake? Kenapa? Sebab dia boleh bentukkan bentuk yang kamu nak kan. Okay? Supaya bila taruh dalam ajuan, dia boleh keluarkan macam muka anak, muka kucing, muka harimau, kan? Alright? Because it's a binder. It's a very good source of binder and also cheap. Okay? Right? So this binder is very important to form your palette. Okay? So I mentioned fish meal for many times already. So indeed, fish meal a good source of everything. Okay, that's why nowadays most of the commercial parrot producer cannot without fish meal. Okay, because it supply a lot of necessary ingredients, necessary vitamin, minerals, and also good source of carotenoids, and also other trace mineral. Okay, right? So they are coming from different sources like anchovy, capelin, menhadens, eel, herring, and all these white fish. Okay, so very high content of fat, very good source of amino acid. Okay, so plant protein source. Okay, before we going to plant protein, any question? Any question? Ada question tak? Handsome sebelah sana. Ada question? Okay. Bolehkah kita masuk dalam soalan ujian? Yes, MC. Ya. Yeah. MC pula yang tanya soalan. No, skim milk is separately. So egg yolk, you can use it for small scale like fish husbandry, right? So egg yolk, the boiled egg yolk, yeah, not the raw egg yolk, yeah, the boiled one. Okay. So after that, you can just put it on the surface, you know. So the fish larva, you come and eat it. Okay. So skim milk powder is another good source where you can actually mix in your own prepared diet. Okay, normally when you come to shrimp hatchery, fish hatchery, normally it's not involving a very large area. It's not same with the shrimp pond and fish pond, right? You have thousands of acres. So normally in shrimp hatchery, yeah, talking about hatchery, the scale is relatively smaller. Okay, so when you're preparing the diet for them, it's relatively easier. Okay, compare with the very large scale of fish pond or shrimp pond. Okay? Yeah? Okay? Any question from floor? No. Okay. Now, we move forward to plant protein sources, yeah? Okay? Get ready, yeah? Okay? So, plant origins such as oil, seed, meal, soybean, cottonseed, canola, all this blah, blah, blah can be used as ingredient for feed formulation. Okay? But with condition, right? So soybean meal, defatted soybean milk. Okay, defatted means that the oil has been compressed out without oil content in the soybean meal. Okay, so the oil after extracted from the soybean can be resold back to the customer, like soybean oil, cooking oil. Okay, have you seen any soybean oil in the market for cooking oil? Tak ada. Cooking oil tak pernah ikut mama pergi grocery shop buy for cooking oil. Tak pernah. Next time when you go to grocery shop, try to see what kind of oil over there. Sometimes you can see sunflower seed oil. Sometimes you can see canola oil, right? So these are the oil that compress from the ingredients. Cottonseed, so misalnya katanya cottonseed oil, dia akan compress dia dan sisa-sisa dia akan jadikan makanan haiwan. Okay, right? So soybean oil, but it has several anti-nutritional factors. Okay, even though it's high, very high in protein. Okay, good source for protein. Tapi kalau guna banyak dia pun ada masalah juga. Okay, it contain trypsin inhibitor. Okay. It can be inactivated by heat. So during the cooking process in your plant, in your manufacturer, right? So this trypsin can be killed. Okay, but another one, the naughty guy cannot be killed. What is that? The phytic acid cannot be killed by heating. Okay, and this is the most problematic things that we encounter in the soybean meal. Yeah, so it will reduce zinc availability and also reduce protein digestibility. Okay, what is the function of zinc? Tahu tak? Zinc, apa function zinc itu? Pernah minum vitamin C, kan? Pernah minum satu brand panggil Retoxin, kan? Pernah, kan? Pernah nampak vitamin C campur dengan zinc tak? Apa fungsinya zinc dalam tu? Exactly, immunity. Okay, zinc helping for immunity enhancer. Okay, as an enhancer for immunity. Okay, zinc enhance immunity. So if the zinc availability has been affected, maksudnya immune system akan terjejas juga lah. Okay, right? So cottonseed meal for the 8% very similar to soybean meal, but also having the same problem as soybean milk. Cotton meal bukan common sangat lah. Okay, so in term of common use, so soybean meal. Yeah, corn meal, gluten meal also contain very high protein. That's why corn meal sometimes used to replace soybean meal. Yeah, okay, and also some wheat meal, 25 to 30% of protein. Okay, so some other unconventional feed stuff. Okay, so you learn about all the soybean meal, fish meal, right? Cotton meal, rapeseed oil, all these things. So how about the other not so common feed stuff ingredient? Okay, for example, single cell protein. Have you heard about single cell protein? Lecture ke? Oh, thank you for joining us. Yeah. Okay, anyone know about single cell protein? SCP. Tak pernah? Pernah tak? Single cell protein. Okay, this is a new trend in aquaculture. New trend. Okay, so single cell protein can be derived from yeast, can be derived from algae. Okay, blue green algae or commonly green algae. Yeah, so single cell proteins. All right, so bacteria proteins. Okay, so yeast proteins. Okay, single cell protein is a new trend in aquaculture that probably can bring out another alternative source of protein. Okay, but it's still in a very infant stage, very early stage of development. Okay, in order for you to have a large scale production, so the optimization of your process will be very critical. Yeah, it's not easy. Well, have you heard about krill? Krill, udang yang sangat halus, biasa boleh jumpa di Antarctic. You know what the whale eating? Huh? Ikan paus. Apa yang dia makan? Plankton, kan? Atau dia makan orang? Plankton, kan? So krill ini adalah plankton dia. Okay, this krill living in the iceberg, under the iceberg, because there's a lot of blue-green algae underneath the iceberg. So when there's a lot of food source over there, you can see tons of krill every single years. Yeah, so their main food source for the whale. Okay, over there. Okay, so it can be used as well, right, as an alternative source of ingredient. Yeah, when you have problem with the fish meal in a global supply, so krill could be one of the sources. Okay, and krill has a very potential because it has carotenoid pigment and it can able to help to enhance some of the pigmentation in your target species. Okay, so last but not least, insect meal. Yep. So insect meal is another superstar, right? Emerging industry for alternative protein source. All right, but so far it's not cost effective yet because the way to develop insect breeding, the way of develop insect meal is still in a very early stage. Yeah, my group in Malaysia has been working a lot with insect meal. So tomorrow I'm going to share some of the good and bad about insect meal. Yeah, so how we develop the insect meal, insect-based meal for aquaculture, right? So insect meal, so we take a little bit of head up on insect meal that we're going to discuss for tomorrow, right? So why insect meal is important? Because they have short life cycle, okay? Compared to all the terrestrial animals, so insects is also a potential protein source, not only for animal but also for human. Okay, right? Pernah makan serangga tak? Tak pernah. Pernah pergi Thailand tak? Pernah makan street food tak? Banyak serangga kan? Pernah nampak kan? Okay. Jangkrik yang goreng, grasshopper yang goreng, silkworm yang sudah digoreng. Tak pernah makan? Means tak pernah pergi Thailand lah. Okay. So this is a potential food source, yeah? Not only for animal but also for human. And EU have already permitted the use of mealworm, mealworm, okay, as a protein source for human consumption. Already permitted 2017. EU have already permitted the use of mealworm as a source of protein for human consumption. Yeah. So if you go to website and look for Insect, Y-N-S-E-C-T, Insects, a French company, right? You'll be able to see how massive of the production line for mealworm. And they have already partnership with Indonesia and some of the South Asia, right? For massive production of the insects for human consumption. Okay? So you can take a look on it, right? And black fly is also a superstar, right? Currently in Malaysia, we have a lot of startup, okay, on black fly farming, right? So some of the product has already gone into market for pet food, now going into shrimp and also fish feed, okay? The only problem now, the production of black fly is cannot meet up to the level of fish meal, because fish meal you require 100 tons or 1,000 tons per month to sustain for animal production in whole world, right? Okay, so if you want to make black fries to replace them, so you must have the capacity to produce up to that level. Okay, so at the moment the technology and the technical level hasn't arrived to that yet. Okay, but there's a potential to be there. Okay, so the feed formulation we always need to talk about is the least cost in your formulation. Okay, because why? Protein is very expensive. Okay, we always looking for alternative protein to replace fish meal, right? Okay, so it has to satisfy all non-nutrient requirement for the growth of species. Okay, and also you need to make it down into minimal for the cost. Okay, your feed ingredient cost, wow, yeah. So that will going to determines whether you success or you are fail in your aquaculture, because you know what, the whole operation cost of your farm operation, 60% or 70% come from your feed. 60 to 70% come from your feed. Kalau feed mahal, habis lah. Okay? Kalau feed murah, senyum lah. Okay? So that's the reason why you want to minimize your feed, and you need to do a very good, a proper feed management in your farm. Yeah. So you must select and use ingredients that will result in products that are readily utilized to minimize wastage. All right. So how feed formulator do? So how this formulator do in the feed manufacturing industry? Okay. So back to the time when I was working with Cargill, so the company hired 3-4 formulator. Okay, so these people, what are the main job function? They are trying to monitor. Their job function is monitor the up and down of the market price for each ingredient. Okay, right? So macam saham you tahu tak? Okay, the market price, international price for ingredients go up and down every day. It's fluctuating every day. Okay, so sometimes you have high, sometimes you have low, sometimes because of the war, then the price is going up. Because of the oil problem, okay, the fuel problems, then the price is going up. Okay, they are using all this software to monitor it, and this get into online, and this software know what is the price for the day. They will monitor it, and they will chip into the price, and they will start to formulate how much of the ingredient they need to use for that particular production. So they will optimize it. So every time, every batch that you have for your feed is slightly different in the ingredient. Yeah, all right? Okay, so this helping the company to reduce costs. Okay? Right. Can we do some calculation to wake up your mind? Okay, all right. So how you going to do a proper calculation for protein needed? Okay, right. So we learn about fish nutrition, we learn about feed production. Tapi semua teori saja. Kalau saya sendiri nak keluar untuk buat makanan saya, macam mana? Doktor lo tak ada aja. Ya apa ni kuliah ni tak guna kan? Okay, so if we would like to do our own feed, okay, basically after the kuliah you can start to do some hand making lah, small pellet. Okay, untuk aquarium pun boleh juga kan? Okay, right. So first thing you need to know the protein level of your ingredient. Okay, how do you know it? Is it come from the supplier? Well, sometimes they will provide to you. Okay, if you want to have accurate percentage of protein, so what you do in the QC department or QA department in every feed manufacturer, they always sample the ingredient for check. Okay, because every time the supply of the ingredient is different, seasonal variable. Okay, sometimes fish meal the other 75%, sometimes it come like 50%, sometimes because of the seasonal migration of the fish in the sea, so the species that capture very low protein, alright? So dia akan berbeza-beza dengan musimnya. Okay, so what is the way of this officer to do, right? They will sampling it and then will subject to protein analysis, okay, to see what are the ingredients percentage. Okay, kalau fish meal at this musim dia 65%, then you have corn meal 40%. Kalau dia ada dua jenis bahan ni, you want to make 45%. CP is crude protein, yeah? Crude protein, okay, right? For your fish. Okay, so how you make it? Pernah belajar tak ni? Pernah? Tak pernah? Okay. Pernah, tak pernah okay lah. Kalau pernah saya pun tak tahu nak ajar apa lah. Okay, alright. So if you want to make 45% of CP, okay, so you put fish meal, corn meal, different percentage in different column, okay. Don't care about whether the value is larger than 45 or lower than 45. Don't care about it. Okay, you just put it on parallel. Okay, so 45 here in the center, right? So 65. Okay, now we look at the difference. Okay, regardless of positive or negative, just the difference. 65, 45. What are the different? 20%. Okay, 20 different. Okay, 40, 45, 5% different. Okay, we don't care whether positive, negative. Don't care about it. You just see what are the differences. Okay, so 20 plus 5, 25%. Okay, this method is called Pearson's square method. Very useful in manual calculation. Okay, If you have software, no problem. Okay, but if you do not have software, you want to do it by yourself, that's the method that you use. Okay, right. So after that, you will know that the percentage of fish meal is calculated as follow: 5 times 10, 100 divided by 25. Where the 25 coming from? 25 is here. 5% is over there. 5 times 100 divided by 25. You got 20. Okay? 20% that you need to include in your 100% of your feed formulation. Okay, maksudnya dalam 1 kg ini 20% adalah fish meal. Okay, faham tak? Okay, right? Sorry, ya 20% itu adalah yang percentage yang perlu diadakan dalam 1 kilogram of feed itu. Okay, so 20% times 65% is the protein level. Okay, now you must able to know what are the inclusion level in the 1 kg. Okay, now kalau dalam 1 kilo, okay, 1 kilo feed ini kamu perlu ada 13% of the fish meal with 65% of protein. 13% inside 1 kg of fish meal with 65% protein. Okay, supaya you boleh dapat 13 campur dengan 32, 45% crude protein. Boleh ikut tak? Boleh ikut tak? I give you 1 minute to digest. If you have any answer, if you have any question, you can ask me. Okay? Right? First, do not care whether positive or negative difference. As long as you come with the difference, put it down. Okay? Then 25% is what you need to become the base, because 25% out of this need to be there in your feed formulation. 25% of 2 ingredients. Okay? But 25 of these 2 ingredients, how much of fish meal needed? How much of corn meal is needed? You tak tahu. You cuma tahu 25% of these 2 kena ada dalam formulation tu. Now, we find out how many percent of fish meal kena ada. 13. Now you sudah tahu kan, 13 campur dengan 32, then 45%. Okay ya? Nasib baik lecture tak ada, nanti ada keluar soalan susah. Okay. Right. So, what if kamu ada lebih daripada 2 jenis protein source? 4 jenis, macam mana kita buat? Okay, right? So easy. Okay, so if let's say you wanted to make 45% or 40%, okay, 40% crude protein using the following ingredients: with fish meal 65%, corn 38%, soybean 42%, and wheat 70%. Macam mana? Susah kan? Okay, tak susah. Divide into 2 groups first. Okay? Tak susah. Okay? Alright, if let's say you nak 40% crude protein, whatever above, you nampak ada above 40 tak? Above 40%, nampak tak ada ingredient yang lebih daripada 40% CP? Ada kan? First, fish meal. Secondly, soybean meal. Kan? Lebih daripada 40%. Then you have those lower than 40%, right? 13 dengan 17. Okay? Groupkan mereka. Then you have first group and second group. Okay? Tambah, divide by 2. Okay, you have 53.5 for first group. Then you have 27.5 for second group, which has lower CP. Okay? All right, apply for the same person square. Okay? Now you have 53.5% minus 40%, you got 13.5%, 27.5, okay? 40 minus 25, 27.5, you got 12.5. So total up 26%. Okay? Now, this a little bit complicated. Okay? Now you know 26% kena ada dalam formulation 2. Misal katanya 1 kilogram, 26% kena datang daripada 4 ingredient. Wah, susah kan? Macam mana kita nak bezakan berapa yang setiap ingredient kena ada? Okay, so now it's come to the point that we need to use group A, right? Group 1 and group 2. Now, group 1, we use 100 times 12.5 divided by 26. Now, we want to know the one how many percent for these two ingredients. Okay, 48.07. Second group, do the same, 51.92. So basically, the two groups adding up, you become 100%. Yeah, okay. 100% is not 100% in your 1 kilogram of feed. It's 100% of this. Okay. Okay, nampak tak? Boleh digest, boleh. Sometimes my student also feel confused. Yeah, so sometimes take more than half hour, 45 minutes to explain all this in my class. Okay, right. And also, I like to make this question as my exam question in my final. Okay, so first group, now you want to divide into two because you need to know, because in group 2, group 1 and group 2, you have 2 ingredients per each group. So you divide, okay, by 2, 24.35, group 2, 25.96. Now, use the same methods. 65 times 24.35. Okay, dalam 26% ini, you ada 15.83 fish meal. Okay, sorry, dalam 40% of this, you have 15.83. Okay, dalam 40% ini, okay, you kena ambil 10.23% from the soybean meal. Dalam 40% CP ini, you kena ambil 9.83% of corn meal into your formulation. Okay, you add all this up together, you will get figures very close to 40%. 40%. Bila tambah semua, dia akan dapatkan 40% CP. Now, you know that in your 1 kilogram of your feed, 15.83% is come from fish meal. 10.23% is come from soybean meal. Ini kena ukur lah berapa kena letak dalam formulation. Okay, alright. So the rest you can basically use other ingredient. Okay, buy the vitamin premix, mineral premix. Okay, right. Okay. Okay. Mengantuk lagi tak? Mau calculation lagi? Okay, now, after we have already talked about protein, okay, requirement, because protein is the most important to increase your muscle contents, to growth, right? And also for hormones and enzyme build-up, okay? So very important. Now, we don't want the protein being used as energy source for the animal. Why? Because we want to reserve the protein for their growth. But kalau dia berenang, dia mencari makanan, semua kena pakai tenaga. Macam mana kita nak provide energy for them? Okay? So through carbohydrate, the cheapest source of energy. Okay? The cheapest source of energy. Okay? Of course, you have the expensive source of energy. Apa itu? Semalam kita perlu cerita kan yang expensive source of energy, apa tu? Tak pernah ada buat catatan Apa tu? Lipid, fat. Okay, you have good lipids, you have bad lipids, right? Okay, you have highly unsaturated fatty acid, right? You have essential fatty acid, right? Okay, these are the expensive source of energy, right? But cheap source of energy come from carbohydrate. Okay, right? So it's used for swimming, daily activities, growing, also reproduction, okay? Because all this require energy, right? But a lot of carbohydrate source, okay, contains fiber. Okay, they contain fiber because carbohydrate is coming from what? Plant source. Plant source contain fiber. Okay, so you cannot have fiber over than 80%. Okay, because this fiber cannot be digested by the carnivorous fish, right? So omnivorous, herbivores, they have the ability to digest it, but carnivorous fish do not really able to digest it. Okay, right? So you need to reduce it. Also, the excellent binding properties come from carbohydrates, starch. Okay, that's why flour being included. Okay, that's why flour being used to expand your feed to become a floating pellet. Okay, flour, source of carbohydrate. Okay, so fat and oil, they are concentrated energy source for fish and animal. They're also having 2.2 to 2.3 times as many calories as carbohydrate. Okay, means that 1 gram of fat equivalent to 2 to 2.5 gram of your carbohydrate. Okay, I mean the energy level. Okay, right? So plant oil such as soybean oil, corn, cotton seeds, animal fats, all these are excellent source of lipids, excellent source of fat. Okay, right? But fat are very easy to be rancid. Rancid meaning apa? Busuk, akan rosak. Okay? Pernah tak kalau tengok cooking oil letak for a month, maybe a year, right? The cooking oil become different, sticky, right? Color become different. Okay, smell also sometimes becomes different, right? That is the consequence of rancid effect. Okay, dia sudah jadi tidak good in quality anymore, right? So what you need to do, so most of the time, manufacturer will put in ectosequins. Ectosequin is a type of antioxidant agent, right? It's very common use in feed manufacture, and sometimes we will use PHT as well, butylated hydroxytaurines, sorry, butylated hydroxytaurines. Okay, it's another type of antioxidant agent that can use to preserve the animal fats. Okay, right? It's a preservative, but PHT cannot be used in a very large amount because it has health consequence. Okay, right? So these are the normal agents being used in animal production. Okay. So vitamin premix. Okay, we talked about vitamin premix yesterday, right? So vitamin premix including vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin B, right? So all these appear in very small amount that you need to be included in your feed manufacturing. But remember, you cannot include choline chloride together with the premix because choline chloride will have antagonistic effect against all the vitamin. Choline chloride is another agent. It's a vitamin-like agent. Okay, it's mimicking to vitamin B basically, but it's not a vitamin or mineral. But this choline chloride is very important, very essential. Okay, it will able to help to build your immune system. Okay, right? Only this agent, particularly this agent, cannot be mixed up with vitamin premix. You have to do it separately. You have to add in separately in your feed formulation. That's why in your some of the feed formulation you will see chlorine chloride, kenapa tiba ada kat sana? Sebab dia tak boleh masuk dalam premix tu. Okay, you have to separate supply. Okay, right? Because chlorine chloride will causing unstable of the products, okay, and reduce the stability of other vitamins. Okay, right. So mineral premix, okay. So mineral premix are concentrates of essential elements that are fortified in fish meal, fish diets, okay. So some of the mineral, okay, for example, coming from soybean meal, cotton seed meal, right? So they have phytic acid, okay. So just now we mentioned about it, phytic acid, right? So it can cause reduction of what in your feed. What just now? We mentioned about it, phytic acid. Start with Z. Start with Z. Still remember that? Baru saja 10 minit yang lalu. Zinc, yes. Okay, very good. Zinc. Phytic acid, zinc. Okay, you will reduce zinc uptake in your feed. Okay, right. So high level of ash, okay, also can interfere phosphorus and zinc and lower the intestinal absorption. So minerals coming from where? Mineral coming from rocks, coming from natural sources, right? Okay, so all these source coming from natural, they have ash. Okay, right? Like batu kapur is a good source for calcium. Okay, it contains ash as well, right? So high ash can cause absorptibility of phosphorus and zinc going down. Yeah, right. So this have to be very careful. Okay, so what are other non-nutritive feed additives? Okay, so additives that are included in diet for reason other than provide nutrient. Okay, and this is particular the field of interest from Miss Maria over there. Okay, probiotic, prebiotic, immunostimulants. Okay, so why this become very important nowadays? Because when we are talking about intensive shrimp farming, intensive fish farming, apa yang berlaku lebih banyak? So dalam intensive farming, what happened the most? Start with T. Start with T. Bayangkan kalau banyak orang dalam satu bilik, satu orang ada flu, lain ada flu juga kan. This is disease. Okay, alright. So why this important? Because we want to reduce disease, we want to reduce the infectious rate, right? Okay. Bila dalam kandungan yang sangat banyak, biasalah immunity akan jadi turun. Okay, that's why probiotic coming in, right? Okay, so non-nutritive feed additive are included all these prebiotic, probiotic. Okay, so sometimes this special ingredients also help to increase the parrot stability, diet safety, right? Diet flavor, performance of fish or shrimp or your culture species. Okay, so other non-nutritive feed ingredient included feed by the carotenoids, any drug, any antibiotics, hormones, antifungus, antioxidants, fiber, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that can be included in your feed as well to achieve for your certain purposes. Okay, all right. So before we move into part 2, any question? Baru part 2 is berapa jam sudah ada? Wow, 1,5 jam. Belum lagi sampai part 2. Any question? Do you want to exercise? Do you want to have a toilet break? Tak. Wah, semua orang tak minum air ke pagi ini? Okay. Can we go straight to the end or you want to take 5? Wow. Okay. Go straight lah. Okay.
There's
so
a
part 2.
question.
Yeah, question. Yes. Identify yourself.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sally.
Yeah, Sally. Yeah,
okay.
I remember you, Sally.
In production of dry pellets, how can we save the protein when the process is removing water for nutrition of fish?
How to save the
Protein.
Sorry?
Protein.
Protecting.
Protein.
Or maybe she mean how we maintain the protein.
Protein.
Yeah,
Okay,
because
all right.
dry pellets involves a heating process to make dry pellets, and protein is heat sensitive. How to save the protein?
All right.
Yeah.
Very good question. Right. How to maintain the protein quality? So during the cooking process, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. So basically, protein is not as sensitive as vitamins. It's not as sensitive as vitamin, but of course, if you have encountered a long period of time during the cooking process, your protein can be degenerated as well, right? So the protein can be affected, right? So what you need to do in the cooking process, make it high temperature and fast process. Like how you process your the milk, right? So HDL milk or high temperature processed milk, something like that. Okay, right? Pasteurization process. High temperature, short period of cooking time. So that's helping you to retain the maximum level of good quality of protein. Okay, so in a feed manufacturing, normally we don't cook the protein for a very substantial long period of time. Okay, we will include high level of heat to reduce the cooking process. Okay, so at the same time you can you can maintain most of the nutrient in the feed, but you also can make sure that your feed has been sterile using high heat. Okay, did I answer your question? Oh yeah. So when you want to increase the protein level, it's during the mixing level, during the mixing period of time. So what are the ingredients you want to come in? That is your decision. Yeah. So right. So we're going to move forward to this manufacturing process. Maybe later we'll know better on the entire land layout diagram of how manufacturing process is going in. Yeah. And I will let you know where your ingredient will come in. Your ingredient determines your protein. It's not the cooking process. Your ingredient determines your protein level. Okay, right? Any other question? Other. Okay, we move forward. Yeah. Okay. So part 2, we are going to talk about feed manufacturer technology. Okay. So basically, this technology has been there for many years, but of course, during the times that when the new advanced technologies coming in, they are constantly improving or optimizing the entire process of your manufacturing process. Okay, all right. So the basic step in diet manufacturing are all included. Okay, with no exceptional for grinding, mixing, conditioning, pelleting, coating, top dressing. Top dressing means coating. Okay, sacking, storing, and shipping. Okay, so basically these are the whole concept of your processing. Okay, so grinding means that you grind your big chunk of ingredient into powder form, because you can't process, you can't formulate your feed without having a fine particle. Okay, right? So remember, when you have raw fish coming in, when you have other big things coming in, you cannot formulate without making sure that they are in a very fine particles. Okay, that's why grinding is required. And then mixing. Okay, mixing is the process where all different ingredients coming in. Like for example, if you want to have high quality of protein, fish meal coming in, soybean coming in, right? Then cottonseed meal coming in, they will mix together, right? So during the time, then you will be able to determine the protein quality and level, okay? Then you have conditioning. Conditioning means conditioning in your machine, okay? Your machine conditioning, then pelleting, cooling, right? So we are going to discuss each step here in the following slides, okay? So when ingredients arrive into the feed mill, so it's either in a bulk, in a sack, right? And they are always coming through from seaport, like for example, fish meal, right? They're coming into the seaport in a bulk amount. So you can see crane is over there to take out all the fish meal. The crane is there to take out all the soybean meal, right? So, and transfer into the, big truck, okay? And transfer in your feed meal, right? Okay? So this is how the ingredients coming in, okay? So ingredients should be examined for condition on arrival, okay? Sample must be taken for analysis because you are the feed miller. If you own the feed mill, right, you are the boss. So you want to make sure that your ingredients that you use is up to the standard level you want, right? Okay, right? So you need to make sure your items is meeting your requirement. So you must take sample for examination to ensure the quality is there. Okay, that's why you need to have sampling. Okay, drugs and medication must be segregated. So if you are buying antioxidants, antibiotics, okay, for your integration of your feed, so you must separately having them. Okay, so ingredient must be stored and protect against contamination, moisture, and pest damage. So contamination here mostly because of your moist level is too high, then you are easily subjected to fungal contamination. So fungus starting to grow, become mold, then you have alpha toxin. Okay, so contaminations happen when other pests coming in also, the lotons, the Mickey Mouse coming in, yeah, the mouse coming in, Mickey Mouse. The mouse coming in, right? So when they pass through your ingredients, right? All the pathogens can drop from the body of the mouse or lotons, right? It can potentially cause contamination. Okay. So each ingredient should be used in order of batch delivery to prevent deterioration associated with long storage. So pagi batch yang lama akan guna dulu, okay? Batch yang baru akan yang kemudian, okay? Right? So make sure you have this practice, yeah? So grinding is very important, okay? So ingredients, make sure in a very fine form, right? From the coarse form become fine form, you need to have grinding process. So the various kind of grinder, including hammer mill, pulverizer, attrition mill cutter, and crushing. Okay, right? So this basically they are sharing the same similarity. So basically, is to make sure your cross form become finest form. Okay, right? Either you're using hammer mill or using this pulverizer, serves the same purpose to make sure that your form of ingredient is fine enough for you to formulate. Okay. Right. So this is the interesting part, the diagram. All right. So basically, the overall diagram show you the standard operation procedures of feed mill. Right. Of course, every of this equipment, sometimes you have new advanced technology, all right, making this equipment more, sophisticated and also more advanced and also more easy to come up with the end product that you want, okay? But this is the entire flow of how the ingredient come in and become the end products, okay? So first of all, your trucks will arrive to seaport or your supplier sites to pick up all the ingredients, okay? So you will subject to scappers. A scapper is the traveling conveyor belt, right? You will put it inside the conveyor belt in order to send over to the silos. Okay, you know the silos, right? Container, big container that can keep your ingredients separately, right? So different ingredient, different silo. Okay? Then your liquid storage you use for example, fat, lipids, oil, okay? Or any liquid additive that you want, right? So when the factory start operating, then your grinder start to come here, grind your particle into very fine, okay, form, and then you come into the mixer, okay? So mixer is a way where you are mixing different kind of ingredients, okay? You want to have 50% fish meal, up to you. You want to have 20% soybean meal, up to you, your formulator to decide, okay? Right? Then all these ingredients will be mixed up together, and you have another line where the drug, vitamin, minerals come in into line, your mineral premix, whatever you want, okay? You come to the line, they will mix up together and into the main mixer. Main mixer is very huge, very huge. If you have any opportunity or chance to go and visit feed mill, please go, yeah? Please go. It's very hard to get in, yeah? But if once you get in, then you will know the process already, yeah? Very, very interesting, okay? So the mixer will come into steam conditioner chamber, right? Where all the ingredients will be cooked, okay? And pelletizer, either is extruder or compressed pelletizer, okay? For stream feed, sinking pellet, you need to have compressed pelletizer, okay? But if you need to have floating pellet, then that's the extruder, okay? So after the pellet has already come down, the end product come here, then you have a cooling period, okay? Cooling period, but at the same time, there is also a sieving process as well. Sieve, right? Ada lubang dia punya net, ada lubang punya shift dengan guna vibration, okay? So for all these smaller particles will drop down, okay? It become a crumble form. Then you further going back to the mixer, right? Without weightage, right? Okay. So this pellet, yeah, in a round shape or cylinder shape, they will go into another unit for top dressing, coating, lipid coating, okay? And this time you can add in, antibiotics. You can add in carotenoids. You can add in anthocyanin. You can add in whatever you want, okay? And coat it, okay? After cooling, then you go into packaging, right? And into the truck to the fish farm or your dealer, okay? Simple, right? Okay? Yeah, it's actually very simple, yeah? Right? This is the silo. Okay? Right? This is the silo. Okay? Where you keep all the ingredients inside. Right? So the particle will pass through a sieve where small enough to manufacture pellets as small as 1.2 millimeters, but this depending on the size that you want. So if you want to have crumble feed, crumble, you know what is a crumble size? Crumble feed, can I say anything? Crumble feed. Yeah, this is the crumble feed. Okay? Tengah-tengah tu, crumble feed. Okay? So it's used for small fish larvae. Okay? And the big one is for adulthood. Okay? Of course, you have a mash feed, which is for small starting diet. Okay? Okay. Now, the grinding is basically that. And the most expensive process is actually in grinding. Grinding is the most expensive process in the entire process, okay? Right? If you want to have a very fine particles, so grinder have to be having high quality of grinder, right? That's why your very fine particle diet is very expensive, okay? Then this is the hammer mill, right? Some animation. When you have cross form of the feed ingredient, so hammer mill will make sure you get a fine form of particle, all right? Then your mixer, right? To ensure the homogeneous of the blending, so you can add in vitamin, mineral drug inside this, okay? Then conditioning and expansion. So every machine, before you run it for full operation, you need to have pre-conditioned environment. So means that you need to run a batch of feed, but this batch of feed is not for selling. It's just for conditioning. Okay, condition the whole process of your machine, right, before you start to have your actual pellet, okay, for selling. Okay, so expansion is a condition step that occur after mixing, but before compressing pellet. Okay, so compressing pelleting, you can either use a small pelleting machine. This is pretty much the same with the lab skill that I have in my university, right? So small scale of pelleting machine. So I show you how we make pellets through this small machine. Very cheap. You can actually buy one for your own use. Okay, very simple, easy, and not much of technical skill that you need to operate this. Okay, very simple. All right. So you basically just put all ingredient on the funnel there, right? So they will drop down, and after that, pellet will come up, right? Very easy. Okay, this is the extruder, which look like a little bit complicated, right? But the main important part is actually this long cylinder. This long cylinder is the most important part, okay? Because the long cylinder will compress the ingredient, jadikan dia sangat padat, okay? And at the same time, it will increase the internal temperature, can be up to 200 degrees Celsius if you want, okay? Depending on your requirement. So during the cooking period, right? So water content in your droughts, right? In dalam campuran tu, mixture tu, dia akan vaporize, okay? During vaporize, you create a lot of small air pockets in your diet, okay? So these small air pockets can making sure your feed is floating on the water, okay? So only extruder can do, yeah, for floating pellet, okay? Right. So extruder by pelleting affect buoyancy in water, right? And also it can add in with high quality of lipids, okay? Right? So equipment can be up to 125 to 150. If you go up to very high quality of extruder, it can go up to 200 degrees Celsius, okay? Right? So, basically, how you want to determine your pellet, whether it's floating, sinking, based on the ingredients that you use and also the machine that you use, okay? Right? So many fish farmers prefer to use floating feed because this allows them to monitor the health and also the feed preference of your feed. And also it's very good for you to like top dressing, cook whatever ingredient that you want, okay? And to make sure that the feed is functional, okay? Have you heard about functional feed? No, tak pernah. Functional feed is the feed cater for special purpose. Functional feed, okay? The main objective of the feed, of this functional feed, is not to grow the fish, but to achieve a certain objective. For example, if you want the fish look very bright in color, like for example, there was one guy over there talking about how to increase the ornamental fish color, right? Right? So you can actually make the feed into functional feed, okay? By including whatever that you think is necessary, okay? Functional feed. Right. Coating drying is also one of the very important process because before you're going through for the packaging, right? Coating is to make sure that your feed is fast enough to be packing, okay, into small sacks, okay, right? So coating have different coating equipment. For the commercial scale, normally the pellet will come from the top, okay? Then you have ventilator at the bottom there. So this ventilator basically macam hair dryer, literally like hair dryer, okay? If you want to make it, you can make it by yourself. So put it hair dryer at the box there. and then start to ventilate. Okay, right? I have one unit here, at my university. Okay, so basically hair dryer over there, then you blow all the hot wind, hot air from the bottom, right, and making sure the pellet dry in a second. Okay, so this is a cooling chamber, right? Okay, we have already touched this. So for if you want to have a very small camber feed, right? Okay, basically you need to make bigger pellet first. That's the first step. Okay, making a bigger pellet, because during a bigger pellet, then only your nutrient can be well distributed. Okay, so you can't straight away campurkan semua ingredient dan buat camber feed, tak boleh. Kena buat bigger one, then you grind it into smaller form. Okay, only by then your feed is well balanced with the nutrients that you want. Okay, so there's additional process. That's why making the feed is so expensive. Okay, for smaller feed. Okay, now come to the final for the coating top dressing. Okay, so the total amount of lipid required in feed formulation cannot usually be included in the mixture. Okay, because as I said, if you have more than 7% of your lipid inclusion, your process will not be done because too lubricant. Okay, right? So the less of the lipids that you want to add in, normally during the top dressing period, coating period. Okay, right? So this is a period where you can include high level of lipids mixture, right? So this is the concept of how top dressing work. This is your extruded products. So after extrusion, right? Remember the air pockets is there, right? Very fine air pocket in between the pellets. This create what? A capillary effect, a vacuum effect. Okay, when bila pichirin itu keluar daripada extruder, it's very hot. Okay, when it's starting to cool down, right? This will be creating a vacuum effect in the pellet itself. Okay, so this is among this period of time, this is the most essential time for you to incorporate whatever that you want. Okay, if you have antibiotics, if you have any other ingredients, do it over here. Okay, and this additive will be able to seep into the pellet space. Okay, which is just created by yourself. Okay, water vapor. And after they have already filled it in the entire pellet, you can now coat them with the lipid to seal them. Okay, you can seal all the active ingredient by coating with lipids, right? And this is your final products. Okay, right? So this is how the top dressing work. Okay? Sorry? Yeah, most of the time of the feed pellets, they are using the same way. Okay? Coating process. Alright? So after everything have done, now it's time for you to make money already. Okay? Sell your products. Okay? Packaging nicely. Right? So that when your farmer see that, wow, this is a good product. Okay? This is very nice. Okay? Right? So packaging is also art of business. Okay? Right? So how you packaging them, how you increase your attractiveness of your products is all depends on you. Okay? So make sure that packaging is good enough, right? We have issue also when we start to produce our own batch of research diet for fish farm. Okay? We tested there in pilot study in Kukup Island in Malaysia. Right? So our first research diet has encountered some problem during the packaging. So I would say that 20% of our feed, when they're reaching to the sea cage, has already become moldy. Okay? So that is very important to make sure that your quality of your feed is achieved before you start to rear your fish. Okay? Make sure it's safe. Okay? Right. So we have a couple of slides at the back there for fish larva feeding, right? Before we go forward, any question? This is the last 4 or 5 slides. Any question? Tomorrow we are going to talk about Kuliah 3, Kuliah 4. Kuliah 3 will be more on insect-based diet, and the last one will be probiotic, prebiotic immunostimulants. Okay, so morning and evening. Okay, right. So tomorrow, make sure you eat full. You know, bring some water, bring some snake. If you want to have snake, okay, totally fine. Yeah, I know that tomorrow will be a very long day. Yeah, okay, bring some water. All right. Any question? No. So we will finish the last 4, 5 slides. Yeah. Okay. So just now we talk about all the adult fish. You know, from fingerling to adults. So this is how the process is going to work. But how about fish larva feeding? This is my main interest. Actually, I did my PhD on fish larva nutrition as well. Yeah, so I love this field very much. Okay, so this is one of the things that I always, the field that I think I always want to be involved in hatchery. You know, to come up with fry, good quality of fry and things like that. Okay, right. So this is the overview of fish larva feeding regimes. Any one of you haven't seen this yet? I think it's pretty fundamental, yeah? Pernah baca tak? Feeding regime macam ni. You know what to feed for the larva when they start to open their mouth? Tak tahu. Minum air je. Yes, the egg yolk. Janganlah lecturer. Student. Yeah, egg yolk is the first starting, but not for the mouth started open. Yeah, it's during the mouth is not yet fully functional. The animal or aquatic organism, they are still depending on their egg yolk, right? Okay, but my question is, when they're starting to open their mouth, what is the first item? Boleh jawab tak? Student aquaculture? Kalau student biotech, okay lah, tak apalah, boleh difahamkan. Tapi student aquaculture kena tahu. The first feeding item is what? Hah? Apa tu? Plankton. Yes, very good, plankton. Okay, plankton. Okay, right. So you have 2 types of planktons, right? In common, one is phytoplanktons or phytoplanktons in English. Okay, then you have zooplankton. Okay, so the first is what plankton first? The first phytoplankton, then only come with zooplankton, okay? Because phytoplankton has smaller size, okay? Or sometimes we so call it green water. So green water, when the fish is starting to open mouth for breathing, right? The water will straight away come into the mouth, okay? There's a source of food source, okay, for them, okay? Then only when the mouth starting to operating, okay, functional, then only based on the mouth size, you put in different size of zooplankton, okay, right? How many zooplankton that you know? How many zooplankton that you know? And can you name it? Name a few to me. Zooplankton. Artemia. Okay, good. Then Moina, good. Daphnia, then okay. Copyboard, good. Okay. Then this is a student of aquaculture. Give yourself a big clap of hand. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So, from the zooplankton itself, we also know there's a lotifer, right? Okay, lotifer is the smallest zooplankton. So normally after phytoplankton, lotifer come in, then your Daphnia moina come in, right? Then you're going to the Artemia. Okay, depends on the size. Okay, so after Artemia, we're starting to train your fish larvae for artificial feeding. So let them know what is the feed that you're going to supply to them at the later stage. Okay, so you cannot straight away stop it, stop all the live feed and give away all your artificial feed. Cannot do that. Yeah, because they will not recognize it. Okay, you should slowly reduce the supply of Artemia, increase the supply of your artificial feed. Okay, only by then they will know this is the things they will expecting in the future. Yeah. Okay, so this is a feeding regime that you have, and after the yearly exogenous feeding, exogenous means external supply of feeding, right? And this bunch of fish, they are very crazy, very naughty, right? Why? They like to eat their own partner. So when they're eating each other, we so call them as cannibalism. Okay? So most of the fish, especially in carnivorous fish, grouper, siakap, whatever, okay, sea bream, huh? So they will tend to eat their friends. Okay? So this is a natural phenomena. Sometimes we cannot deny and cannot control, right? Because it's a natural selection process. Whoever gets stronger will going to bite on the weaker one. Okay? And this also gives them a sense that if I have too many of my friends here, so my food source will become a limiting factor. Okay? I'm going to have problem with it. Okay? So I better kill you rather than I kill myself. Yeah? This is the nature of fish. Right? So I've been seeing a lot of fish eating fish cases in the sea cage. Sometimes the grouper like this size, they're eating another grouper in the same size as well. So at the end of the day, both die at the same time. Okay, I don't know why. I can't find the logic reason behind why they want to kill themselves, right, by eating their friends. Okay, so this is the natural behavior. But cannibalism, can it be reduced? Yes, it can be reduced as well. Yeah, provided with several options that we choose to do. Yeah, including, all right, including what? Including make sure they are well fed. Okay, make sure they are not being too crowded. Make sure they have a very good culture condition. Among this, fish nutrition come in very important. Okay, you need to make sure the bioenergetic flow. Still remember bioenergetic flow? The thermodynamic that we mentioned yesterday? Make sure they are full, make sure they fulfill whatever energy they need to have in their diet. Okay? Then we need to make sure we follow the feeding schedule. Kalau tak hungry, tak lapar, maka dia tak makan. Okay? So make sure all this, all about fish nutrition, very important. And there's several studies also prove that if your diet has been included with certain high level of your lipids, it reduces the problem of cannibalism. Because dia rasa sangat, kenyang, dia tak makan lagi. Okay, right? So one of the tips, okay, for you to remember, yeah, next time if you want to save your cost of feeding, yeah, right? Okay, one tips, yeah. Not many people will tell you, but I'm going to tell you here, right? So a part of give a good quality of feed for your fish, in your feed, you can include 2 to 3% higher lipids level. Okay? Because lipids will going to make the fish feel full and they will reduce the feed intake, right? Enhance and also at the same time reduce your FCL cost. Okay? Right? Your feed cost. Right? So that's one of the tips that you actually can do. Okay? Right. So manufacturing larva feed is very difficult, time consuming, right? And this particular small size of particle, right? Having a very large surface, okay? Surface on contact. So if you want to have good nutrients to be incorporated in your feed, they also have high leaching rate. Tahu tak leaching rate? Dia akan leach out, okay? Because of high surface, okay? High surface contact with water, okay? So factors that consider on your lava feed, you need to make it very good in palatability, very good in water stability, and the nutrients encapsulation efficiency, right? So making micro diet is so super tedious, very expensive way to do that, okay? Right, so like this, okay? If your micro diet going into the fish larva, make sure micro diet is attractive enough, right? If you can make it like a zooplankton shape, even better, but it's impossible, yeah, okay? Right? So visual sensations, visual experience, then your tasting experience, then your nutrients requirement, all need to be fulfilled in order for your fish larva to return back to the micro diet again. So first, if you fail to do that in your first feeding, the next round, when you do the micro diet feeding again, your fish wouldn't care about it, okay? Because they learned that in their past experience, this is not nice, okay? They will reject it, okay? So it's very important, okay? So two form of classes for crumble and on-site feed, okay? Right? For example, frac feeds, crumble, cake feeds, and all these microparticles, they are always used in lava feeding, okay? All right? And special micro-encapsulated diet, okay? For example, you can use it for cocker bivalve, okay? And also for other purposes, okay? Micro-encapsulation is a technology or technique to incorporate all these necessary pharmaceutical products, okay, into your feed, okay? So there's also another term called bioencapsulation. This is microencapsulation, okay? Microencapsulation is only working on the dead particle, not livable particle. But bioencapsulation is something that you work for living organisms, like your zooplankton. Zooplankton is a living vehicle, biovehicle, for you to deliver your drugs or vitamins, your yeast supplements, or DHA, EPA supplements, okay? So in my master research, I'm working on HUFA enrichment for Moina, okay? So what we do, we will feed the Moina with high grades of highly unsaturated fatty acid, okay? Making sure this zooplankton encapsule as many as possible and much possible for the lipids before we feeding for the fish, okay? So you can also do that with, you know, if you have antibiotics and any others ingredients. But we are not encouraging farmer to use antibiotics nowadays, yeah, because it's causing too much of effect. And that effect we are going to discuss in our last Kuliah, okay? What are the effects that we're going to discuss, okay? So with that, I'm going to end the lesson for today. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, I think I take up too much of your time. From 9 to 11, 2 hours. Okay, any question?
Okay, if you have a question, please raise your hand and don't hesitate to ask your question.
Yes.
Baik, terima kasih atas waktunya, Dok.
Dan terima kasih.
Perkenalkan, saya Bagus dari angkatan 2021. Untuk MC tolong ditranslate. Saya ingin menanyakan, lebih baik formulasi pakan sedikit jenis bahan atau formulasi pakan banyak jenis bahan dalam pakan dengan kandungan protein yang sama untuk pertumbuhan ikan? Mungkin hanya itu. Terima kasih.
Protein yang sama untuk pertumbuhan ikan. There's no ingredients have similar protein level. More or less they were having a range, you know, maybe 45, 85, 70. So there's no ingredient across the having identical protein level. So different ingredients have different protein level, and it's also based on seasonal musim. Kalau musim pertukaran, so bahan mentah itu akan bertukar dengan kadar kandungan proteinnya juga. So it's very hard to say that, it's not safe to say that, okay, bahan mentah ini dia memang tetap tak akan. Sebab cara yang kamu untuk menalam soybean meal dengan dia punya cara adalah berbeza. Okay? Kalau kamu ada banyak fertilizer, putting more fertilizer, more care, more better management, mungkin kandungan protein itu